am Dr. Pradeep Behre, working as a scientist, Dairy Microbiology Division, NDRI, Karnal, Haryana. I will speak about spoilage of dairy products. Specifically, I am going to focus on the microorganisms that are going to spoil various types of dairy products. For example, cream, butter, cheeses, ice cream, condensed and dried milk, and indigenous milk products like khoa, dahi, chakka, paneer, etc. The emphasis will be given on the color, flavor and textural defects caused by bacteria, yeast and molds during the production, handling and storage of milk and milk products. As we know that milk is a basic ingredient for all types of dairy products, the microflora or the organisms present in the milk and milk product is affected by production method, handling and post-process contaminations, leading to the spoilage of dairy foods. What is spoilage? Spoilage, in a simple terms, we can say unacceptability of the product for human consumption. We cannot eat the spoiled product. The spoilage, especially in the milk and milk products, can be observed by visible growth of microorganisms on food surface, and also we can see the loss of texture by degradation of important components of milk and milk product. Also we can see the production of gas and unacceptable pigments. Pigment, for example, color. When we keep the product at a room temperature for longer duration, you are going to get some undesirable color formation on the product. That is nothing but the spoilage of the product. Then what type of organisms can spoil the product? We can say there are different category of organisms which includes aerobic spore forming bacteria, non-spore forming bacteria. When we say aerobic spore forming bacteria, means the bacteria which can form the spore or protective material surrounding the cell, that to protect them from the harsh condition. Non-spore forming bacteria, they do not form the spore and they are easily going to get destroyed by any of the treatment. Cyclotrophic bacteria, yeast and molds, they are also one of the spoilage causing organisms present in the milk and milk product. Among the various groups, cyclotrophic bacteria, Pseudomonas mainly, which represent the significant percentage of milk microflora and causes defects especially in the refrigerated dairy product. When we store the product at low temperature, this group will generally cause the spoilage of the product, because they can produce extracellular enzymes like lipases, proteinases, which can act on the fat and the protein. Fat and protein are the essential or generally present in the milk and milk products, and they are the very vital component in such kind of products. Another group, that is coliforms and yeast, they are mainly responsible for gasiness defects in dairy products. Most of the times, if you store or if you look at the product, if you can observe a gas formation, some bubbles will come out of it. This will be caused by the coliform or the yeast, and indication will be sometime if you see the product is canned or packed, you will get the bulging of the that particular vessel or can or tin. Now we will see one by one the various products which are going to get spoiled by variety of organism. For let us take cream and cream based product. Cream basically is a dairy product, often after separation of milk fat from the milk. It is nothing but the fat concentrate which is separated out from the milk. Cream is rich in the fat portion and generally it is called as a oil in water type emulsion. Mainly fat are present in the water, that is why it is called as a oil in water type emulsion. Different categories of cream are produced from the milk, which can be named after the type of treatment is given to milk or cream, which has been made for special purposes. For example, coffee cream, whipped cream, frozen creams. So there are lot many types of cream. The microbiological quality of cream is almost similar to that of milk from which it is prepared, but in the latter stage cream poses more problem due to the more handling steps are involved. As the cream is rich in fat, lipolysis, that is the breakdown of fat by microorganisms or their enzymes like lipases, is more important than other defects, although other defects can also observed with the cream. Most prominent is a fat degradation, it is called as the lipolysis. Fat degrading bacteria mainly are the cold loving, that means as I mentioned previously, psychotropic, these are the groups which are the most dangerous for the refrigerated product, and generally we keep the cream at a lower temperature. Psychotropic organisms mainly Pseudomonas, aerobic spore former, they can also come under the psychotropic category. Bacilli, few yeast and molds are often found in the spoilage of cream. When the cream is spoiled, there are different types of defects can be observed. This includes souring, production of excessive acidity by lactic acid bacteria. Lactic acid bacteria are one of the important spoilage causing group for the cream, because it can produce lactic acid in the cream, and as a result you will get the sour cream. Sweet curdling means where the proteins are utilized by certain bacilli, and there will be curdling without formation of clean lactic acid, but you are going to get the sweet taste. Curdling without the acid production by rennin like enzymes, which is an example of the sweet curdling. It is caused by Bacillus cereus. Further, bitterness we can see in the cream, which is the due to the degradation of protein, which is obtained as a result of bitter peptides formed by the causative organisms like Pseudomonas and Bacillus species. Rancidity, which is the also caused as a result of breakdown of fat, which is present in the cream. Rancidity is caused generally by the lipase, which is an enzyme produced by bacteria, yeast and molds. We have also observed in the cream like fruity flavor, apple like flavor, which is caused by Pseudomonas fragi, and which is the most important organism in the microbial spoilage of cream. Other defects like yeasty flavor, malty taint, ropey cream and various discoloration. Discoloration means forming of different colors like black, pink, orange. It are caused by different species of yeast, bacteria and molds are also reported spoilages often observed in the cream. Such defects can be occurred in cream due to the production of cream from unhealthy animal, inadequate heat treatment given to the milk or cream, use of uncleaned equipments and unhygienic practices followed by the persons. These defects can be overcome by following a proper hygienic condition, obtaining milk from healthy animal, preventing post process contaminations and proper storage of cream below 5 degrees Celsius. Let us talk about the butter. Butter as compared to the cream is a less prone for the microbial spoilage, because butter is nothing but the fat concentrate. It contains more fat than the cream and less amount of moisture is present in the butter. And furthermore, butter is also prepared by adding salt. This kind of butter is called as a salted butter, and due to this addition of salt, it gives a preservative effect to the butter. Such butter can be sometime coming into the market as a table butter, and this butter has a longer shelf life than the normal butter or the white butter. You must have observed white butter, you must have seen the white butter, which is generally used for the manufacture of ghee. As I said, addition of salt have a preservation effect, which increase the shelf life of normally table butter. However, initial microflora of cream production method and post process contamination decides the final microflora of the butter. Lactic acid bacteria, previously as I was talking about the cream, and coliforms, they can produce acid and gas, while Pseudomonas and other contaminating bacteria causes lipolytic and proteolytic changes and makes the product unacceptable for the consumption. And sometimes certain pathogens Pathogens means which can cause disease to the humans are also likely to enter into the product during the manufacturing condition as an post process contaminants. Let us see about the some of the spoilages like chemical or enzymatic problems caused in the butter. There are different types of spoilage defects in butter which can be categorized as a cream borne defects and the storage defects. Cream borne defects are the defects originating from cream in the fresh butter, and these defects are cheesy, malty, weed, for example onion, grass or dandelions, feed, alfalfa, sweet clover, barley, metallic, coffee, yeasty, rancid, musty and old cream flavors. These defects can be avoided by using a defect free cream for butter manufacture. Flat or insipid flavor in butter is due to the dilution of cream with the water or excess washing of butter granules during working. Storage defects includes mainly this will depend on the conditions of the storage, and this will mainly be occur due to the action of certain enzyme, and which will cause the which can be categorized as a chemical, enzymatic or microbial type. The various defects in butter can be rancid flavor, putrefactive taint, fruity flavor, musty taint, pink, brown, orange discoloration. The organisms responsible for various spoilages are again the bacteria, yeast and molds. Now we will talk about the spoilage of cheese. Cheese is one of the incredible products produced from raw and pasteurized milk by fermentation with the starter culture, followed by coagulation with the rennet. Rennet is the enzyme. Sometimes rennet is also called as a chymosin. Different types of cheeses are prepared all over the world. There may be many thousands of cheese varieties are available, and these cheese varieties are very specific to the particular type of countries. Cheeses are prone to spoilage and they are generally spoiled by bacteria, yeast and mold. There are certain cheeses where we are going to use yeast and mold also, and this the example of those are Roquefort, Camembert, blue, they are generally called as a blue cheese. There are certain example of cheese: cottage cheese, brick cheese, Swiss cheese, cheddar, feta and mozzarella cheese, and some of them we must have heard, like Swiss cheese, where this characteristics of this cheese is eye formation, where you will get the small eyes on the surface of the cheese. Cheddar cheese, we generally in India also cheddar cheese is being manufactured in some of the dairy plant, and cheddar cheese is generally used in the manufacture of processed cheese. Mozzarella cheese, we are generally sometimes we eat cheap pizzas. In pizzas, mozzarella cheese is being used. So microbiological spoilage of these cheeses is one of the important reasons that render the nutritious and tasty cheese not only inedible but also a potential source of infection. What kind of defects are going to observed in the cheeses? So apart from bacterial spoilage, early blowing and late blowing are the main defects in cheese that occurs as a result of microbial growth. Gas production in fresh cheese during the early ripening stage is called as a early blowing, and in the later ripening stage is known as a late blowing. Early blowing is generally caused by Escherichia coli and Enterobacter aerogenes, while late blowing, which is usually occurs after 10 days in cheese varieties such as in Gouda or after several months in some Swiss cheeses, is caused by the Clostridium species that are capable of producing butyric acid from the lactase. Clostridium species are also responsible for production of hydrogen sulfide, which gives a foul smell, and these Clostridium species are also responsible for the spoilage of tinned or canned cheeses. In processed cheese, these bacteria can cause bulging of the cans, because these bacteria are anaerobic in nature. Then what kind of fungal spoilage we can see in the cheeses? Because the condition in cheese are favorable for the growth of yeast and mold. Yeast can produce rind rot on the cheese surface, while molds can produce black and red spots on hard cheese and blue cheeses. Mold can also produce mycotoxins, which can be fatal for human being. Mycotoxins are the toxin which is produced by certain mold. For example, aflatoxin, which is produced by Aspergillus flavus. So, likewise there are many more toxins which are produced by the molds, which when produced in the cheese can be dangerous for human health. Now, let us talk about the ice cream. Ice cream is a very popular dairy product all over the world. It may be commonly defined as a frozen dairy products, and which is made by suitable blending and processing of cream or other dairy products along with the sugar, flavor, stabilizers, colors, and with the incorporation of air during the freezing process. Air generally increases the volume of the product. Actually, it is generally because you use to increase the overrun in the ice cream. The product is nutritionally rich and can protect the microorganisms and pathogens when present. However, the microorganisms in ice cream can come from the ingredients used in its manufacture or are added during the processing steps. Ice cream may be prepared with the several dairy on dairy ingredients. Hence, it may get variety of microorganisms. For example, during the manufacture of ice cream, we are going to use milk or cream, and these products should be free from coliforms, off flavors and spoilage causing agent. Skim milk powder is also used, which should not contain Bacillus cereus and Staphylococcus aureus, because they are the possible food poisoning organism. Butter or butter oil when used should be of high microbiological quality, and especially it should be absent in the Pseudomonas species, especially of Pseudomonas fraga. It should also be checked for yeast and molds, coliforms and lipolytic organism. Packaging materials will be a good source of molds and bacterial spores. It should be effectively sanitized before use. After packing, the ice cream is transferred in hardening rooms where all the moisture goes in a frozen state. Thereby, organisms do not get free moisture and hence cannot proliferate. However, they can survive for long periods if they are already present. In the entire process, contamination by human handlers, especially with the pathogens, is also of great concern. Now, let us talk about the spoilage of concentrated milks. When a part of water is removed from the milk, it gives a concentrated milk. It is generally done to increase the shelf life, reduce bulk or increase convenience for use in other foods. Concentrated milks are named as a condensed milk, evaporated milk and sweetened condensed milk, generally called as a SCM. Plain condensed milk has a shelf life comparable to the pasteurized milk because it is not treated, but evaporated milk and sweetened condensed milk, where sugar is being used, have a higher shelf life due to the sterilization and high concentration of sugar. Although sugar effect and processing condition in sweetened condensed milk and evaporated milks does not allow microbial growth, but still microorganisms, especially osmotolerant, which can tolerate high osmotic pressure like yeast and molds and some spore formers in case of evaporated milk, can find their way into such products and they can develop variety of defects. The defects which can be observed in the evaporated milk, which may originate from the milk itself, because as I said, evaporated milk are generally sterilized. There will be problem mainly from the spore forming organism and certain thermophilic type of organism. If they are present already in the milk which is being used to manufacture evaporated milk, they will survive the conditions and they will subsequently spoil the product. Usually anaerobic spore formers like Clostridium foetidum, which can withstand 118 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes, may survive and cause bulging of cans due to the gas production. This bacterium can also produce hydrogen sulfide, which can give a foul smell. Coagulation of milk can also be sometime observed, which is caused by Bacillus subtilis, Bacillus coagulans or Bacillus megaterium. Contamination subsequent to sterilization can lead to several other defects. Now, defects in sweetened condensed milk. Presence of high concentration of sugar leading to the plasmolysis of bacteria. This is the main principle of preservation of the sweetened condensed milk. Sugar ratio in sweetened condensed milk is very important as far as microbial survival is concerned. Generally, this ratio should be maintained between 62 to 64% so as to control the unwanted organism present in it. If this ratio is disturbed, the product is going to spoil or microorganism present in that will start growing into that, and subsequently they are going to produce various defects. The defect which we can see, that is age thickening with the cheesy odors, which can be caused by micrococci or spore formers. The gas formation defects leading to a bulging of cans, which is a very common defect caused by yeast of a Torulopsis type. If sugar is low, coliforms can also cause this defect. Molds, being tolerant to high sugar, can form mold buttons with the colored spots and of flavors in sweetened condensed milk. Species of Penicillium and Aspergillus are implicated in such cases. Now, let us talk about the spoilage of dried milk. Drying of milk has advantages of high shelf life, reduction in bulk and convenience in the storage, transport and marketing of the product. The dried milks have generally less moisture content, usually 2.5 to 4%, and less water activity, less than 0.7, where there is no possibility of microbial growth. Different types of powders, for example, whole milk powder, skim milk powder, infant milk powder, malted milk food, dried whey and other dried dairy products can be manufactured in a dairy. There are two basic processes called roller drying and the spray drying, which are available for manufacturing powder. In both the processes, preheating is a very important step because it can kill most of the initial organisms present in the milk. However, some thermoduric and thermophilic organisms have a chance to grow during the subsequent condensing operation. Balance tank, which is one of the important source of contamination, which is used generally as a storage tank for the condensed milk before subjecting it to the spray dryer. In the spray drying, evaporative cooling helps organisms to survive during the drying. So, when the organisms are present in the dryer, these can be influenced by variety of factors that will include the initial quality of raw milk, the chances for growth of organism during the processing, and extent of incidental contamination from air, humans, equipments, etc. Roll drying is an efficient process from microbiological point of view, as the milk comes in direct contact with the hot rollers, which kills most of the organisms. However, low levels of macrococci, Arabic spore formers and Sarracenia species have been found to be present in the roller dried powders. Thermoduric flora belonging to the macrococci, Streptococcus durans, enterococci, alkaligenous tolerans, Macrobacterium lacticum and bacterial spores can come as survivors of preheating, but in a relatively low numbers. They can have a chance to multiply subsequently, and the most important contaminant is the Staphylococcus aureus from the humans, which gets favorable conditions to grow in a concentrated milk in a balanced time. This organism is able to grow at a low water activity, hence high total solids in a condensed milk cannot inhibit it. The other important contaminant is the Salmonella, which is mainly coming through air and survives in the powder. The spray dried powder has much more intense contact with the air, as the air is used for the drying, cooling and conveying of the powder in a spray dryers. Extreme care is required in the preparation of infant foods, especially to keep them free from the pathogens, because these infant foods are given to the most vulnerable group of the humans. Preparation of infant foods required addition of some other raw materials also. In addition to the milk, the quality of milk which should be strictly regulated. Now we will talk about the spoilage of indigenous milk products. A variety of dairy products are indigenous to India. These are called as indigenous because they are specially popular and manufactured in India. These are the important part of the Indian cuisine. The majority of these products can be broadly classified into the curdled products like channa or paneer, or non-curdled products like khowa and khowa based sweet. Other products include barfi, kalakand, kheer, paneer, shrikhand, sandesh, etc., which are being increasingly used in the day-to-day life. Khowa serves as a favorable medium for the growth of microorganisms on account of its nutritive value and moisture content. The general macroflora of khowa includes acid producers, aerobic spore formers, proteolytic, lipolytic and pigmented organisms, as well as coliforms, which on proliferation causes spoilage of khowa. Further rapid spoilage of khowa is attributed by contamination with yeast and molds from the external sources. The unsatisfactory practices generally followed in its production, handling and storage results in poor shelf life of the product. The limited shelf life of khowa has been ascribed to microbial spoilage, particularly by yeast and molds. Now let us talk about the defects in khowa. The major flavor defects in khowa are sour, rancid and stale flavors, which are caused by using poor quality milk or storing khowa for excessively long periods. Stale and sour flavor is mainly due to the activity of proteolytic and acid producing organisms at lower storage temperature. Under ambient conditions, the fat component of khowa is degraded by microbial lipases of lipolytic bacteria, leading to the hydrolytic and ketonic rancidity. Hard body generally due to low fat content of the milk and low moisture content of khowa. During excessive high temperature, a coarse texture of khowa appears due to the high acidity and low fat content of the milk. The defects can be prevented by using good quality milk and good manufacturing practices. Excessive high temperature during the final stage of manufacture and inadequate storing and scrapping during khowa making causes browning in the final product. A very high moisture content of khowa, high humidity in storage rooms and poor packaging leads to mold growth on the surface of the product and may also produce certain mycotoxins in favorable conditions. The defects can be prevented by storing khowa in airtight packages, moisture levels kept under prescribed limits and the treatment of wrapping papers with antifungal agents like potassium sorbate for control of mold growth. Another product is a paneer. Paneer, a popular indigenous dairy product which is similar to an unripened variety of soft cheese, which is used generally in the preparation of variety of culinary dishes and snacks. The spoilage of paneer is mainly due to the bacterial action and chemical changes in the environmental condition during the storage, transportation and handling. This may cause microbial spoilage and further results in quality and nutritional losses. Pre and post process microbial contamination of the paneer is a potential safety hazard for a consumer, which leads to food poisoning. Spoilage in paneer comprises of flavor. The shelf life of paneer is low and the spoilage is due to the surface growth of microorganism. Generally, a greenish yellow slime is formed on the surface and the off flavors render the paneer unacceptable by the consumers. Oxidation and hydrolysis of fat also leads to production of off flavors, stale, rancid and unclean flavor prevails in paneer when proper packaging is not done. A slight amount of cooked flavor accompanied by Maillard browning during excessive heat sterilization occurs in the product. The defects can be avoided by using fresh milk, headless of fat is also avoided, storing paneer at 4 to 6 degrees Celsius and controlling microbial growth by using permitted chemical preservatives like gelocid and hydrogen peroxide. Color and appearance defects, improper packaging leads to microbial growth on the surface of paneer, which gives rise to shiny appearance and sometimes to brown spot also. Hardening of paneer also occurs due to the improper moisture levels. The appearance defects can be avoided by using proper packaging material so that air is excluded completely and storage temperature is maintained. The optimum fat level in milk and optimum pressure for pressing is preferred to avoid the surface drying of the paneer. The next product is channa. Channa is one of the perishable indigenous milk product because it contains somewhat higher moisture than the paneer, which is like just similar to paneer, but difference is that in channa we are not pressing, while in the paneer we are going for the pressing. In channa is a popular form of fresh cheese which is prepared by precipitation of boiling milk with the addition of citric or tartaric acid. Due to high fat and moisture content, the product is more prone to different types of microbiological spoilages. At ambient temperature, its quality deteriorates within a few days or two, and the shelf life is greatly influenced by the composition, particularly moisture content, storage, temperature and nature of the packaging material used. Of flavor defects like burnt, smoky, sour, rancid and stale or foreign flavors arises due to some improper conditions. Moldy surface defect is controlled by proper packaging with the moisture barrier packaging material. Some viable foreign matter in a channa is controlled by proper straining of milk and adopting good manufacturing practices. Other channa based sweets like sandesh, channa murki, pantua, chamcham also shows some type of defects, and the prevention is done mainly by boiling of milk. Another indigenous products are chakka and srikhand. Chakka and srikhand are the fermented milk products made from dahi. The semi-solid mass after the drainage of whey is called as a chakka. While srikhand is prepared by blending chakka with sugar, flavor, cream, etc. During conducive condition, coliform, bacilli and yeast and mold causes off flavor in the srikhand. Mold being osmotolerant and acidic also causes spoilage defects in srikhand. Chakka is more prone to spoilage due to high moisture and absence of added sugar in it. To summarize, microorganisms like bacteria, yeast and molds find their way into milk and milk products through different routes and spoil it before we think. Many innovations in pasteurization, sanitation practices, refrigeration and process designs have evolved in dairy industries to minimize the microbial contamination and assures safe, high quality dairy products. The rate of spoilage of many dairy products is slowed by the application of one or more of the treatments like reducing the pH by fermenting the lactose to lactic acid, adding acids or other approved preservatives, introducing a desirable microflora that restricts the growth of undesirable microorganisms, adding sugar or salt to reduce the water activity, removing water, packaging to limit available oxygen and freezing. Thank you.